Hey, Ben Spangle, mindset and performance coach here. I'm coming at you today again, and I'm going to be sharing with you another clip from a previous seminar that we did. Today's is going to be all about meditation and having a greater understanding of the how and the why and the what, so that when you go and do it, it becomes much easier. Meditation, as you know, if you've been following my work for any length of time, it's completely changed my life, and I recommend it to everybody. I think it's one of the greatest practices we can develop in our lives for many reasons. I mean, there's health reasons, there's connecting to your spiritual essence of who you are. If that's not a part of your personality, that's okay. You can still work on calming your mind, clearing some of the mental clutter, using it as a space to begin to visualize. And this excerpt from the seminar, I'm going to talk about what actually happens with your brain waves and everything that's going on there, and how you might be able to start to apply it in your life. If you're already an experienced meditator, I think you'll enjoy it. If you're new to meditation or you're curious about it, I think you're going to enjoy it. If you have no idea, I think you'll find it interesting too. And by the way, I'll have in the show notes there, if you want to learn more about meditating, I have a meditation challenge. You can click in the link below to learn all about it. Thanks for being here as always. And I'm wishing you the most prosperous and successful and abundant life possible. I'm going to talk a bit about meditation. And how many of you guys meditate already? A lot. Wow, that's awesome. A lot. How many have never meditated? Anyone never meditated? A few? Okay, good. How many have done it once or twice? How many of you guys go like, I can't meditate? Can't meditate. Mine's all over the place. Can't do it. So we'll talk a little bit about meditation. And meditation's a great tool. I think it's one of the best tools for changing your mind. We'll talk about why in a minute here. Those of you that feel like I can't meditate because my mind's all over the place, that would be like saying, well, I can't bench press 135 because I'm just not strong enough. It takes time. It takes practice. You have to get to that point, right? So meditation is a skill. It's a practice. It's something that we continually develop and get better at. And so I've been meditating for really seriously since 2017, on and off for a decade before that, but really seriously since 2017. And still to this day, I'll have meditations that my mind is, boom, all over the place. Other ones are amazing. But it's a practice. It's a practice. So meditation there's lots of different ways we could do it. I think that most people, again, average person, you think they're meditating and they're, this is what they're looking at. Hold on here. This is them, right? This is meditating. You're up on the mountaintop. You got the pose going. And that's them meditating. Now, if you meditate like that, no big deal. But that's not what you have to do. All right? Sometimes you're picturing you got the perfect form like that. Look at her hair blowing in the wind. Right on the edge of the cliff, too. I mean, so that's not what meditation has to be, although that would be pretty sweet. That's not what it has to be, though. So basic stuff. What do you do in meditation? Typically, you're closing your eyes. Why are you closing your eyes? You're going to block out sensory information. And if I want to get more into my mind and less in my environment, right, if I can block out some of the sensory things in my environment, it makes sense I could go more into my mind. You follow me? Right? So if my eyes are closed, then I'm no longer looking at something. And I've blocked out that sensory environment. If I was to play some nice music that I enjoyed, some soft music, probably not going to meditate to metal. I mean, maybe you will. It's up to you, I guess. But some gangster rap, your call. I wouldn't recommend it. The affirmations and some of that stuff may not be the best for you, right? I'm going to kill you, mother effer, Probably not the best to meditate to. But I put on some nice music, then what am I doing? I'm then blocking out that sensory information. And so if I was to close my eyes, I was to listen to some nice music, then it makes sense that, okay, I'm blocking out some of the sensory stuff. It might be a little bit easier to get into my mind. Agreed? So that's, part of it. Now, could you stand and meditate? Sure. Could you sit and meditate? Could you lay on the floor? Absolutely. I mean, you can do all those things. I find that some people that say, well, I tried meditating, it doesn't work, I fall asleep, there's usually a good reason for it, and it's because you're laying in bed at nighttime. So that would be a good reason to fall asleep. You could say that when you lay in bed at nighttime is part of your personality, that you fall asleep. It's part of who you are. So it's probably best to avoid that. So meditation. Let's go a little bit deeper on it too. So in our brain, there we go. So in our brain, there's different brainwave frequencies. There's actually 5, but these are the main 4 that we experience regularly. So there's beta brainwave frequencies, there's alpha brainwave frequencies, there's theta brainwave frequencies, there's delta, and there's also what's called gamma, and it's not like the comic books. There is actually gamma brainwave frequencies. But these are the 4 main brainwave frequencies. Beta has different ranges. It's got what's called high range, mid range, low range. But for our purposes today, we're not going to spend too much time on that. Beta, if you think about, for the most part, beta brainwave frequencies are waking state. It's your normal everyday life. You're in beta. Alpha is a few things. You can be an alpha when you're awake in the day too. Sometimes when you're engaged in deep study, that would be considered like you're really into the material, you're reading, you're watching, whatever, that would be considered alpha. You could get into that. Sometimes when you're looking at something, but you're not quite there, you know what I'm talking about? That could be, you've gone into that alpha brainwave pattern. Some of you might even be in that right now, where you're learning some of that. No, legit, you might be. Not even a joke, you might be. It would be a good thing, right? It would be a good thing. And then theta, typically, for most people, theta is when you're sleeping, for most people. You can get into it. And then delta is deep sleep. So you usually don't experience that in your waking state. So you're like really deep sleep, typically in delta. So those are brainwave frequencies. And the reason why we're going to talk about this is just to give you a little bit better understanding of what we're going to do. Just to prepare you, we are going to do some meditation today, just to prepare you. All right? So you'll be okay. Don't worry. No one's going to look at you. They're going to have their eyes closed. All right? They're going to be doing it with you. They'll do it too. We're going to do a really easy one. We're going to do a quick 4-minute one. It's not even really a long one. You're just going to test it out. So if you're new to it, those of you that have done it lots, no big deal. You're going to test it out. Okay? It's going to be really simple. It's a guided one. It's going to be super easy. You might even like it. Who knows? So beta, alpha, theta, delta. So beta brainwave frequency is primarily waking state. If you're stressed out, if you're worrying, if you're stressed, then you're actually in what's called high beta. Now, when you're in high beta, when you're stressed out, and I know none of us in the room ever experience that, but we know people that do. And when those people are stressed out, they're in high beta. And when you're in high beta, no new information can come in. So one of the reasons for meditation is perhaps you may be living in, maybe not like super stress, but you could be living in stress quite often. You know, if we go back, way back in time, we didn't have jobs, right? You were just kind of surviving, you're living, right? You got to like hunt the animals and run away from the ones that are going to kill you and make sure you've got somewhere that you can sleep and, survival, right? Survival. And so you didn't have a job, so you had no stress of the job back then. You didn't have a boss. There's no stress of the boss, right? I don't know, but maybe there was, I'm not sure if there was like real formative relationships. I don't really know. That was lifetimes ago. I don't remember, But there was not a lot of the stresses that we have today. Agreed? Yeah, there were stresses, don't get me wrong. If you were about to be chased by an animal, your body would go into stress. And when your body goes into stress, what does it do? It releases different chemicals in your body. Stress chemicals. Cortisol, that's right, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all that stuff. And when you're in a stress state, what it's doing is it's bringing all your energy to survive, to run away from the animal. Does that make sense? So that's what's happening. So stress gives you this extra burst of energy. It's harnessing it so that you can survive. But nowadays, we have jobs, we have businesses, we have bosses, we have careers, we have families, we have children's school to think about, we have this to think about, we have that. We go on social media and we see how their life's so much better than ours, and all of a sudden I'm stressed out because my life's not as good as theirs, and all these kind of things. And so where before the stress was primarily when you were actually in danger, now we can be in a constant state of stress. Does that make sense? And so if we're in a constant state of stress, no matter how much information we read, no matter how many of these events we come to, no matter how much of that stuff, nothing new is going to get past. Nothing new is going to become a part of who you are if you're in a constant state of stress. So we want to get out of that. So meditation is great to help with that. Does that make sense? Okay, that was a mouthful, so just explain that to your neighbor. Okay. Good. So when you share with your neighbor, by the way, what's the benefit of sharing with your neighbor, your neighbie? What's the benefit? Hey, you get to remember more, right? The more you talk about an idea, the more you think about an idea, the more you're reinforcing it in your brain. That makes sense, right? There's probably other benefits too. Sometimes your neighbor has a different view, a different perception than what you heard. You heard the same information, but they perceived it differently. So that opens you up to new perceptions. All of this stuff is helping you create greater neural circuitry for what you want, right? It's helping us advance. So we share with our neighbor. So there's different brainwave frequencies, beta, alpha, theta, delta. And if you think about your conscious mind resides in either beta or alpha. This is where the conscious mind is. So it can go in between these states. Again, most people, a lot of their day is spent in some kind of beta. High range, mid range, low range, but they're spent in some kind of beta. And then we'll go in and out into alpha. Alpha is the door to the subconscious. That's the interesting thing. So if beta and alpha are conscious states, alpha also can be a subconscious state, but then theta and delta are fully subconscious states. So, why meditation? One of the benefits to meditation as you practice it and as you get better at it, is you start to lower your brainwave frequencies. And if we could lower our brainwave frequencies, what am I starting to do? What am I starting to get into? The subconscious. Where's all the programming stored? The subconscious. So if I want to alter the subconscious, it makes sense. If there was a way to get into the subconscious, that would be a good thing to use.